He had put a challenge down there. Close your eyes. Close your eyes for a second and let it in. We don't do this earth journey alone. We often say here that we belong to each other. A quote from Mother Teresa. Go ahead and open your eyes. The same reality that you find when you close your eyes and you breathe is in this room, is in this space. Look to your left and your right and behold the face of God. Look in front of you, behind you. Everywhere you look, you see the face of God. This is a reality that we are celebrating. This is a reality that we are knowing together as partners in believing, as co-creators on this earthly journey. We don't do it alone. And God is showing up as each and every one of us. Yes? This morning, God's showing up as our chaplains on duty. Atiba's in the back corner, and Madeline Rosales is here, and they're holding the unbroken awareness of your perfection today. All the words I'm talking about, they're doing it without words. They're holding the magnificence of your soul today. So if you ever want to tap in, if you forget in this moment, you want to tap in, feel that beam, or see one of them after the service, and they'd love to hold prayer for you and with you and to remind you. So a German Shepherd, a Doberman, and a cat all die at the same time, and they go to meet God, and they're at the pearly gates, and God wants to know what they believe before he lets them in. So he goes to the German Shepherd, and he says, what do you believe? And the Shepherd says, I believe in discipline. I believe in training and loyalty to my humans. And God says, very good, you may sit at my right hand. Then he goes to the Doberman and says, well, what do you believe? And the Doberman answers, I believe in the love and the care and the protection of my humans. And God says, very good, you may sit at my left hand. And then God looks at the cat and says, what do you believe? And the cat licks his paws, he slicks his whiskers back, and he says, I believe that you are sitting in my chair. Today, I want to give all of you a great big shot in the arm dose of cat-like awareness. Cat-like being. And I want to invite you into my minister's eyes, my human's eyes, my spiritual eyes, to how I see you. You know, you go away for a month and you get really excited and you get really grateful about the people in your life that maybe you have forgotten to remind them that they are a child of God, that they are the light of the world. That you are so blessed, that your life is so very blessed, and I've been gone not having spoken for about 5 weeks now. I got to sing to you last week, but this week I wanted to take the first time I stepped back foot into this room to do a basic Unity talk and remind you all how incredibly beautiful you are. How incredibly powerful you are, and how incredibly blessed I feel by being in your presence here and your presence there. And I hope that you will come back and be in here on homecoming when you come back. But you're like cats. You're more magnificent than any cat that ever walked the place, ever walked the earth. And so there's a throne for you. There is a seat for you at the highest place of vibration, of truth, of knowing. Yes? How many of you claim this 24/7, 365? There's one. We've got one. Would you like the microphone? I'll give it to you. I want to give you a huge dose of a couple of things, our 2 unity principles. Our first 2 unity principles, which everything is founded upon. Sometimes it's good to review. What is the first one? There's one power. Only one power. We're not in a world divided against itself with the devil. That devil is a human construct. One power, one presence, one goodness, one light, one essence, one source, in, through, around, and as all creation. And that's important. In, through, around, and as all creation. And if that's true, if that is true, and we believe it is, guess what? Second unity principle. There's a spark of that divinity in you, around you, as you. God created out of itself all creation. And so God created out of itself everyone in this room. Everyone in this room. So God doesn't make junk. There is no junk in this room. How many of you have 24/7, 365 realized that when you speak a negative thing about yourself, that you were saying that God creates junk? When you define yourself by your human experience and your mistakes and your dark side and your shadow, which is there, but the shadow is to be brought out into the light and looked at, not to be pushed aside and go, no, I'm less than. No, we know that the less than and greater than is the cause of all suffering. When we begin to look into the mirror and have a thought that we are less than, we are downplaying the very miracle of God, the very gift of God that has been put into our hands. And I'm saying, knock it off. It's time to just simply knock that off. You see, you're not just in partnership with God. A lot of places are telling you you're in partnership with God, which is a sense of duality, God and me, God and you. Unity says there is no me and you, there is only God. There is no us and no them, there's only God. That's a song that we like to sing. Amen, amen, amen. God is sitting in the chair that you're sitting in today right now. The energy of God is made manifest in the cells of your being, in the cells of your mind. We cannot be separate from that which we are, but how many of us have believed that we are separate from God? Oh gosh, I sometimes 400 times a week. I have a thought, stinking thinking we like to call it around here, where I believed that I could be separate from that which I was. Many people come to Unity, and this is the first time they're hearing this. Isn't that a shame that we live in a world that for the first time that they've been on the planet for 70 years, and they walk into the room and they're told, you're not broken, you're not stained, and it's like this big aha, V8 moment. Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever heard this. A revelation, an epiphany, a great awakening happens individually. But so many times that epiphany happens individually and it doesn't go anywhere because we're afraid to speak it. I'm not going to be afraid to speak the truth that you are magnificent. Oh, you screw up. Yes. I am magnificent. Oh, yes, I screw up. I am fully human, but I am fully divine at the same time. This is what Jesus brought to the planet. That it is possible to be in the world but not of the world. It is possible to be human and divine at the same time. But how many times have we set our divinity down, put it aside because we're beating ourselves up? Mea culpa, I'm this, I'm that. And we look in the mirror and we forget to say, good morning, God. So many of us get up and say, good God, it's morning. And the reality is we are called to be the shifter, the paradigm shifter, the pattern interrupter on the planet, and to begin to recognize is that you were not born in original sin, you were born in original beauty, in original power, in original God essence. They have that revelation when they come in here. Wow, I remember who I am. Say that with me. I remember who I am. The cat, the lion within us has always been there. And then we have this epiphany where it's like, oh, I forgot. I've been pretending. Anybody been pretending? Sure, I've been pretending for 60 years. Is it not working? It's not working? They can, when sometimes age, you lose your hearing, right? No. Is that better? Oh, see? Thank you. They turned me up. Now I got to talk softer. I remember who I am every day, every moment. Every relationship, every experience contains within it a possibility of an awakening, of a great remembrance. Now, any exceptions to that in the room? Every experience? Yes, every experience. Every relationship, what about that one? Yep, that relationship can be the portal and the avenue and the vehicle by which you become more of yourself. You are making your way back to the Garden of Eden that lives within you. Not out here. This has to come first. As I find the Garden of Eden, the kingdom of heaven within, then it shows up out here. And we're expecting the world to change out here, and we get up and we say, good God, it's morning. Look at these wrinkles. Look at this body. Look at this life that I've created. The time has come for us to be the change on the inside, to realize the change on the outside. Now, you may still feel discouraged. Anybody feel discouraged in your human life? I do sometimes. Disappointed. You feel disoriented. You feel a little bit lost and discouraged. It doesn't change. You see, the truth I'm talking about today is absolute. It does not change based on circumstances. And when we anchor into that which is absolute, the relative realm is going to come and go, and it's going to have waves tossing, but you are living at the calm center of the ocean as the veritable presence of God, as the veritable presence of life, of love, of peace, of harmony. Breathe with me. You're one breath away from returning home. That's how powerful you are. You're one breath away from making a huge difference. That's how powerful you are. And so many of us have allowed the world in its short-sightedness to drive the bus. We're letting stinking thinking drive the bus. And we've given all our power away to that person who hurt you. Or all that power away to the person who's not behaving the way we think they should behave. And we've forgotten that with headquarters and home is right here. We're talking about the hero's journey. I think on the hero's journey, on the evolutionary spiritual path, we all need a good dose of remembering those first two Unity principles. God is expressing, particularized at the point of me. In fact, I want you to say that. God is particularized at the point of me as you place your hand on your heart. Together, God is particularized at the place of me. You are a lion. Roar. We need a little cat-like consciousness to say, I own this couch. I own this life. I own this room. And when enough of us own this room as the presence of God, God owns the room, God owns the planet, God owns the space, and transformation begins to happen. Yes? Martha Graham, I'm going to use some quotes that are my favorite quotes today. This is what Martha Graham had to say about this. Can you read that okay? I want you to read that with me with a powerful lion-like voice. Together. There is a life force that is translated through you into action, and there is only one of you in all time. This expression is unique, and if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium. It is not your business to determine how good it is or how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. In that phrase, it's a powerful phrase and statement, but I want to highlight the one about comparison. I'm comparing my light to your light. And where have I gone to? Greater than and less than. And the world suffers. You suffer, and the person that you're projecting against is also suffering, even if it is a better than me mindset. And it goes two ways. The ego manifests in many different ways. Oh, better than, less than. But the ego also manifests in its weakness and its short-sightedness as greater than and less than. Mea culpa. I just don't measure up. And the Buddha. I like to go to the Buddha for my inspiration many times. What did the Buddha say? That if you're engaged in a state of comparison, you're engaged in a state of argument. And if you're engaged in a state of argument, you are engaged in a state of suffering. There is not one person in here that is more valuable, more worthy, or less worthy or valuable of being love, of knowing love, of experiencing love and expressing love. Not one person on this Zoom here today, this broadcast, that's less deserving. Not one person on the planet that is less than you. Not one person on this planet who is greater than you. And when enough of us get this, there'll be a critical mass, a tipping point, where maybe the earth will shift back to the place where we belong to each other, and the kingdom of heaven then manifests first inside and then on the outside. And maybe, just maybe, that which all the great prophets and masters taught will come to be. Yeah, go ahead. I think that's something to clap for. Don't be shy about it. If you look at the great prophets, you know, when you do that, when you shine your light, guess what? People are going to come after you because they're going to want to tear you down. There's a lot of people that want to tear buildings down, to tear your building down so their building can feel good. They're like the biggest building. There's two ways to have the biggest building in town. One is to build it. That's what I'm asking you to do. The other is to tear every other building down around you so that you feel big. That's the lesson of the ego. The time has come to stop tearing down anybody and everybody else's building. But you're going to have things thrown at you. You're going to have difficult moments. When you shine, people won't like it. That's okay. Be okay with it. This reminded me of the story. There was a farmer who had an old abandoned well on his back 40. And his favorite mule, his prize mule, fell into the well, all the way at the bottom. You couldn't even see it, but you could hear him braying. And the farmer was at a loss as to what to do about this. I can't get him out. Everything he tried couldn't get the mule. He was too heavy to get him out. So he invited his friends to come over. And they pulled and yanked and tried to create a chain, tried to get the rope wrapped around the mule. They couldn't get the mule out. And the farmer made his peace. He said, I guess I'm just going to have to put him out of his misery. I can't just listen to his suffering down there. And all the farmers began to get dirt. And they began to dig in the dirt and to fill in the well. We're going to cover up the donkey. Let's cover him up. And shovelful after shovelful, the donkey's at the bottom of this well getting hit in the head, getting hit in the back with the dirt. Ever feel like that in your life? That, man, the world's just pouring on me, trying to cover me up. I'm feeling lost and panicked just like the mule did until the mule had an epiphany. I remember who I am. And he went, wait a minute. If I shake this dirt off, shake it off, it goes to the bottom of the well, and then I step up. Shake it off, I know who I am, and I step up. This is what happens. Eventually, the mule gets out of the well. Not without its bruises, not without its bumps. You're not going to escape this earthly journey without bumps and bruises. I hate to tell you that. But you will, by the practice that I'm putting out there today, shake it off and step up. Say that with me. Shake it off and step up. Shake it off and step up. Now like you mean it. Shake it off, then step up. Shake it off and step up. I see your donkeyness today. I see your catness today. It does not mean that you don't have places of growth. And I want you to hear clearly say that. It used to be in the New Thought movement, we sang this song, I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. Well, that's kind of short-sighted in of itself. Yeah, we got to bring the human into congruity with the spiritual truth we're talking about. There are things that need to shift and to change. And you're going to have blind spots. We all have shadows, yes? I'm saying this is a safe place to bring our shadows and put them on the altar and go, look at this. How are we going to work through this? See, denying shadow doesn't work. New Thought tried that for a long time. We're not about puppy dogs and rainbows all the time. We're about embracing our divinity and embracing our humanity and putting it all on the altar and saying, how do we grow? How do we shake it off? And then how do we step up? How do I realize and recognize more of myself? The prodigal son is one of my favorite stories. And you all know the story, right? I don't need to tell the story. It's in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, where the most important line that has informed my life to this day. Short little statement. He came to himself. Say that with me. He came to himself. Now make it personal. I come to myself. I come to myself. This is all of the theology, all of the principles and laws that we talk about at Unity. That's it right there. I remember who I am. And so our job in this evolutionary process of becoming individually and collectively is this three-step process. Number one, I'm going through life and dirt's being thrown on me. How do I shake it off? Number one, I remember and I reveal. I remember who I am. I remember that I am not broken. I remember that I am not stained. I remember that I am a holy, infinite child of God. A light bulb moment goes off, and it may be 1 second in your long 24-hour day. That 1 second is essential. Maybe tomorrow it'll be 2 seconds. I remember who I am, and then I show up and reveal that light. You see, this little light of mine, I'm not going to let it shine. You let it shine, you're saying God makes junk, it's not valuable, it's not worthy. God does not make junk, God makes light, and you are the light of the world. So maybe for 3 seconds this day, you're going to reveal that light to somebody who needs to hear it. That's network spirituality. As I have the awakening, I pay it forward, and I sign up people to maybe be a blue star underneath me. That was a joke about network marketing. You can be a blue star too, or a diamond. But the reality is we have to pay it forward. It is an obligation of us as spiritual beings on the earth to pay it forward. You're not here by accident. Nobody is in this room, in that life, on this earth by accident. We are called to pay it forward. And it may feel like you do it for 3 seconds, but for God's sake, do it. Remember and then reveal. Second step, I begin to recognize that which does not belong. I recognize this is not in congruity with my divine nature. What just came out of my mouth is not coming from my divinity. It's coming from my ego. What action I just took, or what I said, or what I allowed access into this beautiful laboratory of creation, into my head, is not from my divinity. So I recognize it, and what do I do with it? Flush it. Get rid of it. Release it. Let it go. Because guess what? You are poisoning the water of your life. Because what you are holding today is going to show up tomorrow. And if you hold an idea about anybody else, guess what? It's a great boomerang, and it's coming back, and it's going to show up tomorrow or next week. But a lot of people say, well, then I will only put good things out, so that good comes back to me. That's very selfish. How about only put good things out because you are a part of the transformation of the planet? How about only allow divinity to speak and to have access to your heart and your mind and your life and your relationships, because you are the Savior of the world. You are taking personal responsibility for making the world a better place. Put your hand on your heart again. Repeat after me. I take personal responsibility. And I release that which does not belong. And where you sit right now, I know that you know what that is. I don't need to preach that. You know exactly what does not belong in your divinity. This is the moment on your hero's journey that I'm asking you to finally let it go. It may be a phone call. It may be forgiveness. It may be 1,000 different things. Why are you carrying it around? You know, I could carry this glass around for a short time, and it's not very heavy. I might be able to hold it for hours and hours and hours. By this time next week, my arm will be broken from carrying the weight of this. And a lot of us are carrying muddy, dirty consciousness around with us. And then we wonder why life doesn't show up the way it's supposed to show up. Well, because you're carrying something around. Empty the glass and refill it. Put something else in it. The prodigal son came to himself. And the third step is to then respond and represent. Represent the Christ. Represent your divinity. Represent the Buddha, not your ego. So you respond by taking actions that show the world. Talk is cheap. I can get up here and talk, but don't judge me by my words. Judge me by my actions. How is love showing up when I come down there? And hold me accountable for my stinking thinking and my stinking behavior. Hold me accountable to be in alignment with the divine essence of my being. You know, nothing in this world will allow you to look at what needs to be released more than going home and spending 4 weeks with your family of origin. I got to spend the month of July with my mom and my dad and my twin brother and my 2 sisters and nieces and nephews. And guess what? Right there, right in front of your face are all the patterns that you have. All the old habits and thoughts that need to be released. What's the old adage about 3-day-old fish? Family and 3-day-old, after 3 days it starts to smell like old fish. And you can run from that. Many of us run from that. But I was forced because of circumstances to be there taking care of my mother and my father. So the 3-day-old fish came, and we figured out what to do with the 3-day-old fish individually. I began to have old patterns. My wife began to have old patterns, and there was tension in the house. You see, when people get afraid, and my parents are very afraid right now, tension emerges, and that which you're able to keep at bay for a short time, to play nice because you have company in the house, it goes away. And it went away, and there was tension, and there was a call for healing. And I had to look at my ineptness with 2 jobs. One, as a minister in an atheistic household, to somehow find the words and the actions to create the healing that was needed, first within and then without. And the second was to be a handyman. Anybody who knows me, I'm not the handiest of people. Yet I was the handyman on job, and I tried to hire 4 handymen, and 2 of them didn't show up, and 2 of them said they didn't want to do the job. So I became it. And I had a job to do while I was there. I was cutting some linoleum. I had a whole bunch of jobs. I was building a ramp. I was retrofitting a bathroom. Not stuff that they train you to do in seminary. And I had to cut some linoleum, and I could not find the tool to cut the linoleum. The carpet knife, the blades, it just wasn't working. It was jagged. I wrecked a number of pieces of linoleum. And I went looking in my dad's garage. There's got to be a tool here somewhere. And I dug through piles and piles of junk, and I found an old pair of tin snips from 1910, I think. It was rusty. It was ugly. It had not been sharpened for probably 50 years. It was covered in dirt and dust and cobwebs and had not been used for probably equally as long. Side note on that story, when my grandfather died, he was a master craftsman. He never passed on the skill to me. He had a garage full of tools. And I wanted those tools not to use, but to hang on my wall as a badge of remembrance, because my grandfather was my hero. And I sat there for hours watching him build furniture, craft things that were just magnificently beautiful. And I showed my dad these tin snips, and he said, "Oh, those must be your grandfather's. They've been sitting there since he died." And I pulled these tin snips out, and I said, well, what the heck, nothing else is working. Let me tell you, it cut through linoleum like it was butter. It cut through like it was a thin little piece of paper. I don't know how. I have absolutely no idea why that was the tool that worked to cut linoleum, but I cut a straighter line on linoleum than I've ever cut. And it was clean and neat and got laid down and looked beautiful in the new bathroom and lining some cupboards in the kitchen as well. And I thought, what a metaphor. There was an aha moment as I was sitting there on the garage floor cutting linoleum. I have judged myself as imperfect, as a bit rusty, as a bit unsharp, as a bit in needing some attention, a bit of comparing that there's probably a better tool. I could just go down to the carpet store and get a linoleum cutter. But there was a connection to my grandfather who spoke to me through that tool, and it was like a big pair of scissors. And I said, I have judged myself as rusty and unsharp in many different ways. Everything changed in that moment in my visit with my parents and my sisters and my twin brother. What changed? My mindset. I changed. I changed the environment. I began to use skills I've forgotten that I had. I couldn't talk about God as a minister, but I could sit down at the piano, and I pulled out all this old sheet music that my father loved from the 60s and the 70s. And I began to play, "And I Love You So." And my father, who was a bundle of fear and anger and nerves and resistance about the money that was being spent to fix his house, melted. In his chair, he melted, and he, just like my grandmother used to do. In that moment, I changed. I could not see the solution until I changed my mind. I could not find the solution until I allowed myself to be a conduit with my rust, with my inadequacies, with my humanness. And suddenly, there began to be a healing. And my mother, who was scared to death, that she wasn't going to be here next year, melted. And my mother, who's never liked vocal music, ever in the history, she says, don't sing, just play it. Well, she's not the only audience member that ever said that to me. But the reality is my mom knew that Susie and I were going to be singing for our grandson's wedding. And she said, would you be willing to sing that song that you're going to sing at the wedding? And so we sang. How the world can change. It can change like that. It can change like that. And my mom started to sing. My mom, I've never heard my mother sing. Here was my dad, minutes before, fighting with my mother fighting with my brother, everybody blaming everybody else for what was going on. And there was peace. Through sitting down and playing some rusty old songs in a very unsharp manner. I was really, really pleased, and I'm pleased to announce to you that my mom is still dealing with being in a wheelchair and the results of her stroke and of her broken bone in her back. But we got home Thursday. By the next Thursday, my mom got a call from the surgeon who said, come back in 3 months, we cannot find cancer. So happy. Now, do I believe I was part of that? Absolutely. But she was the main part of it. And I believe it could have been a very different diagnosis had she not found the music within her heart. That's what we're called to do, folks, is to be the hero, is to find the music that even if you have judged it 1,000 times, even if you have messed up 1,000 times, or 2,000, or 3,000, find the music because the tool exists within you to be the hero that the world needs right now, that your family needs right now, that the person sitting next to you needs right now. God is doing business as you, in your skin, in your unsharpened mind, however you judge it to be. Joseph Campbell, this is the first of 3 talks we're giving about the hero's journey. I know who I am. This is what Joseph Campbell said. The journey of the hero is about, let's read it together. The journey of the hero is about the courage to seek the depths the image of creative rebirth, the eternal cycle of change within us, the uncanny discovery that the seeker is the mystery which the seeker seeks to know. Step one on the hero's journey is to realize that that which we are seeking is us. It's around us, yes. It's within us, yes. But our job is to make it to the Christ consciousness to say that it is us. This is the journey of the Bible. As you read the Bible, it's the discovery that I am it. I am that which I am seeking. It already exists in the mind of God, and the mind of God is where I reside. In fact, I am, with the thoughts and the feelings I'm expressing, the mind of God. I'm asking us as a congregation, as heroes, to seek the depths of yourself and to stop playing around on the waves of their humanity and get to the depths of the ocean where that which is absolute is unchanged. It is a place of rebirth and the understanding that all you seek is not around you, not only around you, not only in you, but it is you. I invite you to put your hand on your heart as we prepare to go into meditation, and I invite the band back up. Repeat this quote from William Ernest Henley, the poem Invictus, and say it with a lion's roar, a lion's voice, a cat-like awareness of your worth. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. The time has come for us to quit making everybody else responsible for our lives. Oh, a savior, a prophet, a teacher, a book, a workshop, a guru, my father, my mother. Whoever it is you've made responsible for your life, let them off the hook. And live your divine birthright as a magnificent expression of God. And know that there's going to be people who can't see it. They won't see it. They're blind. Quit wasting your time judging their blindness and start spending your time looking at your own blindness and recognize that which has always been true will always be true. Friedrich Nietzsche once said this beautiful quote. I said I was going to use some of my favorites. This is a go-to. Together, and those that were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Be the Buddha. Buddha was attacked on his way to enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Jesus was attacked on his way to enlightenment and crucified for it, mocked and ridiculed. I spent a lot of time with my Baha'i friends, the founders of the Baha'i tradition, which has really touched my life in a profound way. Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha both were ridiculed and exiled by a world that could not understand them. But they're not just men. Let me give you a list of some of my other heroes that were feminine. St. Josephine, Joan of Arc, St. Teresa, Rosa Parks, Elizabeth Stanton, and the list goes on and on and on. Go surround yourself with these kinds of people because they knew who they were regardless of the ridicule. They knew who they were regardless of the world. As we go into meditation, one more time, I want you to repeat after me. I know who I am. I know what I am about. And no force on earth can keep me from being me. Meow.